Hi, this is Candis Lai and Paul Hart here doing our final presentation for our Markstrat simulation game. We are Team R. With me, I have Paul Hart. He is going to set the stage for us for our project. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Candice. Thank you. So, setting the stage, we began the game with two brands, Rock and Roll. Both were aligned toward the same segment, professionals. And of the two, Rock was more aligned with the professional segment. So, once we identified that, we managed Rock towards the professional segment and managed to make it a market leader in that segment. For Roll, we were more or less scratching our heads with what to do with this brand. And after a bunch of periods of not really knowing what to do, finally towards the middle of the game, we identified it as being very well towards explorers and repositioned it to target explorers, and it achieved some growth toward that segment by the end of the game. Finally, we created a third brand, Rodeo. In the second period, we had taken out a loan and we decided to use some of that money to create this brand and to target savers, and in the hope that it would make our portfolio stronger. And by the end of the game, this brand had reached the top 5 in the segment for savers. So our profile for our brand, our whole portfolio for Rangers, our stock price by the end of this game in period 8 had reached 1,123. And when you look at where we started the game, it's a 12% increase. So a pretty good increase. Our revenue of 34 million isn't very high, but it does place us pretty close to being in the middle of the pack in the marketplace. And as I said, we are in third place now, and we began the game in fourth place, and throughout the game we had moved up to third and then back a little bit to fourth, but ending the game in third place and having a really strong brand in Rock, we felt really good about that. So our three brands are Rock, which targets professionals, Roll, which targets explorers and high earners, and Rodeo, which targets savers. So for our brand Rock, we ended period 8 with 43.5 million in sales, 90,000 units sold in period 8, and both of those numbers are a significant decline over where we were in periods 5 and 6, but still placing pretty strongly in the professional segment. And the 24.6% market share puts us in second place in the professional segment.
And yeah, Rock generated nearly 100% of our revenue and our contribution after marketing. Throughout the entire game, Rock was consistently our strongest performing brand, tapped out in period 5 with 84% brand awareness and 54% purchasing intention in the professional segment. In period 5, we realized that Rock's brand characteristics are falling behind comparing to its competitors and initiated an R&D that didn't go in effect until period 7. Using only this one brand, we got third place in the Markstrat game. Rock finished the game at 82% brand awareness and 27% purchasing intention.
So now for our second brand, Roll, it ended period 8 with 4.7 million in sales, 13,000 units sold. Both of those numbers represent the strongest period for Roll in the game. And we can say that Roll was peaking towards the end of the game. It was definitely had been getting stronger as the game progressed. And in fact, we had sold out of our inventory in the last 2 periods and could have benefited from more inventory in this brand. It had 15.3% market share in the Explorer segment, and that's good for second place in that segment.
Yeah, the Rock was a struggle for us right from the beginning. Initially, Roll came out of the box with the highest brand characteristic compared to all bands across the industry. That includes Rock as well. But situating far off to the upper left corner of the perception map, sitting there by itself, we decided that we will use it to target the Explorer segment without considering an R&D. We thought Row was going to be a rock star because it's already offering the best characteristics, but we were wrong. From period 0 to 4, we tried different techniques on Row, including switching target segment from high earners to Explorer and back again. But nothing worked. It's until period 5 that we realized that we needed to do an R&D for Row as well. Because of the overall poor performance of Row up until period 5, we were cautious about increasing production. In period 6, we had lost 25,000 units in sales. By period 7, Row was starting to really pick up in the Explorer segment and all units were sold out. In period 7, we lost 75,000 units in sales. For period 8, we missed the deadline to make a decision, and because of that, period 7's decision were repeated again, and we lost 100,000 units in sales. At current calculation, between period 6 to period 8, we had lost a total of 33 million plus in sales. Row finished the game at 62% brand awareness and 51.5% purchasing intention in the Explorer segment.
So now moving on to our third brand, Rodeo, had 4.1 million in sales in period 8 and 24,000 units sold. Both of these numbers are very low overall, and this brand was never going to be a significant player in our portfolio. It does offer significant growth potential as the Savers segment was continually growing, and at 1.9% market share in this segment, we are in the top 5.
Yeah, we started Rodeo to reach different segments that Rock and Roll wouldn't be able to reach. And we also know that we needed an additional brand in either the Savers or the Sharper segment because they're projected to have the highest market growth in the upcoming periods. And we ended up choosing the Savers and started brand Rodeo in period 2. Rodeo didn't have much of an effect of our overall portfolio, and due to its low profitability, we also didn't emphasize advertisement on Rodeo early on the game. In period 7 and 8, there were more demand because we did an R&D in period 6. However, we did not increase production appropriately and lost about 60,000 units in sales. Rodeo finished at 56% brand awareness and 5.5 purchasing intention in the Savers segment.
So now let's talk about some of our keys to our success. We do consider our performance in this game successful because we were able to reach third place. And some of those things that allowed us to be as successful as we were is that we did in fact perform several successful R&Ds during the game to align Rock, Rodeo, and Roll with their targeted segments. And this did prove to be key because we did finish the game with all 3 of these brands being relatively close to their ideal segments. We took out a loan in period 2, and this proved to be key because it allowed us to increase spending on advertising and increase the size of the commercial team, as well as to start our third brand, Rodeo. And throughout the game, we increased production steadily each period to meet the rising demand in the market.
And some of the areas we need to improve is to even perform more frequent R&D. By doing so, it will help us align better with our segment and the changing perception. We also want to keep the base cost low as well. Around period 5, I realized a lot of the competitors' base cost is lower than us because having Rock and Roll rolling right out of the box with high brand characteristics, we didn't think about implementing R&D until towards the end of the game. And now we understand the importance of doing R&D regularly, not only to align with the segment's ideal value and expectation, and also to keep the base cost low. And by period 5, we anticipated Rock's decline in period 6, but we didn't expect it to be so devastating. We should have kept up with R&D throughout the whole entire stimulation and adjusted accordingly. And secondly, we need to focus Roll to Explorer early, or any segment to be specific, not just Explorer. And once we place our focus on it, it ties back to R&D. Just because a product has high brand characteristic, it doesn't mean it's desirable. And we need to think about the consumer's expectation before targeting a segment instead of just blindly choosing a segment we want to target. And finally, we have our increased production according to demand. And now we know we need to set production level using the market calculator in Markstrat, but we shouldn't completely rely on it as demand can dramatically increase or decrease based on other market influence. Had we trust our instinct, we would have been able to see how well Roll would have been able to perform. Last, we have to make better use of our other brands, Roll and Rodeo, and the advertising and commercial resource we allocate to them. Throughout the whole entire stimulation, we did not totally neglect our weaker performing brand, which is Roll and Rodeo. They have similar advertisement support comparing to Rock, but without proper R&D, all this is just going to waste. And some of the key marketing management ideas we learned is we need to really dial in a segment's ideal perception. Understanding the perception is essential before making any marketing decision instead of just going with my gut feeling. And also, once we understand that, perception can still change over time. As we see towards the end of the stimulation, professional segment just kind of keep moving around, kicking Rock out of its own area with the professional segment. Third, we need to keep up with consumer demand by doing R&D. We now need to know that we need to do R&D a lot more to keep our production costs low, and stay close to the consumer demand. Base costs and lower base costs and sell it in the same suggested retail value will generate a higher profit, and it will also allow more leeway to play around with the segment's ideal pricing perception. Also, taking into consideration that the suggested retail price will not be the final consumer purchasing price, ultimately, we should bring the final consumer purchasing price close to the segment's ideal value. And different segment also place different value on pricing. Blindly adjusting the pricing is not going to help each brand too much. Most buyers, generally speaking, are sensitive to extreme pricing adjustments. So without looking at the whole entire market situation, we should not really just adjust on price. However, price is very important for the consumers in general. And fifth, we need pricing depends on distribution, brand characteristic, position, and promotions. And in the practice round of our initial Markstrat stimulation, I had increased Rock's price for $50. That did not do well. And so in the real Markstrat stimulation, I decreased the price by $50. And before adjusting the price, I did not take into consideration any of the market distribution, current distribution for Rock, characteristic, positioning, or promotion. And these really are the first things that we should be looking at before blindly adjusting the pricing. And finally, we have our product growth cycle. And we love Rock a lot. It's our breadwinner. It's the main guy that made us be able to land third place. But every product has to go through its introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And there's no real way to save Rock by after period 5, because after period 5, it's kind of going into its declining cycle. And although I still believe we should do an R&D to upkeep its brand characteristic, but there's really no way to bring it back to the level it was at period 5. And instead was doing R&D just to maintain the product and lower the production to keep the product still offering. Finally, we have our brand awareness. Brand awareness does not increase overnight. Through introduction of a product, it does require another period to build up purchasing intentions as well as brand awareness. And brand awareness, from introduction, it takes about another period to build up, and it ties in with the market penetration. Brand awareness does not tie in with purchasing intention, because Roll had pretty high brand awareness through the whole game, but very low purchasing intention up until we did the R&D in period 6. So that is for our presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Paul, do you have anything else to say?
I think Candice did a great job of summing it all up, and I think we both got a lot out of this game, and if we had another chance, I'm sure we'd do a great job again. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.